Don't look at him. Let's just get the hell out of here.
We heard screaming. Oh, my God. Oh, are you dead? Don't touch him, Andy.
Don't move him.
You
creep.
Oh, my God.
Get up.
I guess I fooled you, huh?
Sure.
Chris, leave him alone. He doesn't know any better.
It was a joke. It was just a joke. I didn't mean to.
You never mean to.
Hey everybody, Mike here from the Pod and the Pendulum, and what we have here is a little bit of a bonus episode right now. I was fortunate enough to get to interview Larry Zerner, who played Shelly, the man whose pranks you love to hate. He was actually kind enough to sit down over Skype and record a brief interview talking about how the character developed, how he sees his legacy, what he's up to now as an entertainment lawyer, just some other kind of wacky things I think you would maybe come to expect from us overall. So was really excited and really appreciated the chance to talk to Larry. Hopefully you guys like this little interview, and we'll be back with a full episode on Monday. In the meantime, enjoy this little bonus. Of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't show for us a little bit right now. So do us a favor, go on, follow us over at Pod and Pendulum over at Twitter. We interact with everybody who gets a hold of us there. Speaking of getting a hold of us, if you can take a moment, leave us a review over on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. That is so huge for us. It really helps new people find us. So if you can take a moment and leave us a quick review and a rating, that would be awesome. All right, while you guys listen to this, I'm going to get back to editing our 4th and 5th episodes. I think you guys are really going to love what we have in store for you guys for the final chapter and a new beginning. Really stoked to bring those to you guys over the next couple weeks. So enjoy Larry Zerner. All right, folks, so we are back, and we have a really special guest with us for our Friday the 13th Part 3 episode. We have Shelly himself, the man who gave Jason his mask. Larry Zerner is here to join us for a quick little interview. Larry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We're really excited, and I'm sure you get requests like this a lot because you are the man that, gave Jason that iconic look.
Well, not too many requests, but once in a while.
So I kind of wanted to start out, when I was reading the Crystal Lake Memories book, one of the things that you said in there was it just asked you, the director said, just be yourself. When you go up there, that's what we're looking for right now. So how did you interpret Shelly? Because I think there's a definite I hate to use the phrase sad sack quality to him, but he was definitely down on himself. So how did you look? What did you want to bring to the table when you were playing Shelly?
Oh, it was really seriously what would Larry do? WWLD.
Okay.
Shelly is a lot like me, right? He's a wannabe actor, not too successful with the ladies. Overweight, big afro. I didn't, gain weight for that role. I didn't grow that, I didn't put a wig on. That was just all me right there. So there wasn't a lot of, research I needed to do. It wasn't Sean Penn playing Harvey Milk.
Okay. So we weren't going full method with this role.
It was just the method is me.
Okay. So you studied yourself, basically. All right, great. So, one of the things I think people like about Shelly is that he is a practical joker, even though some of those practical jokes are a little bit weird. I'm not sure how many people would hide in a closet for, who knows how long, and then, pop out with a slit throat.
No, not that long. He goes in the closet. He screams. Right, he pulls a scream to get him out to come. He's not waiting for them to open the door. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to wait that long.
Okay. How were you allowed? Like, was there any way to kind of improv in the script a little bit, and were you able to come up with some of the different ideas for the pranks that Shelly would pull, or was that all?
No, there was zero improvisation in the movie at all by anybody, really. The only line in the movie that was not or that I said that was not scripted was when Vera rejects Shelly and she leaves, and he says bitch to her. And that was not the point. Like, I was a big Saturday Night Live fan, and that was a Emily Latella reference. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Emily Latella. That was Gilda Radner. She would play this old lady and not here, and then she would go, never mind, and then she'd say, call Jane Curtin a bitch. And that was what I was doing, because the scene was over. It was just right before they yelled cut, and I just went bitch. And it just got a laugh. Like, everybody laughed. So Steve said, all right, say it again. And we kept it. But it was actually not meant to be part of the film. It was just
right.
We were about to yell cut, and I said it, and that's what it was. Now I feel it's kind of like I don't know that I regret it, but it makes Shelly a little like he's a dick. I don't like that. He said that's such a dick move, and it wasn't meant to be. It was really just a joke for the crew.
Yeah, because he's pretty likable up to that point. I mean, all the jokes, and I think what's really part of the reason I think people like the old Friday the 13th movies so much is that, especially in those first 5 movies, actually the first 6, the cast is really likable. Like, it's a bunch of kids and a bunch of teens that you really like and root for, as opposed to a lot of modern horror movies where you're like, and maybe it's because I'm older, maybe now because I'm like, would be those kids' dads, and I'm like, definitely hit the, get off of my lawn stage, where I'm like, man, I can't wait for these kids to get killed. Where back then, I'm like, we kind of root for Shelly, and did you feel like he was maybe winning Vera over a little bit by the end, because she seemed to be kind of warming up to him a little bit?
No, zero chance. Shelly had zero chance with Vera. I
don't know, man.
Yeah, only in movie world. Only in movie world could that happen. No, Vera is not. I don't care what Shelly's doing. Vera is not sleeping with Shelly.
Oh, not even a little pity? Not even a little, just to try it?
Come on. Doesn't happen.
Wow, shooting down dreams everywhere, my friend. Shooting down dreams.
You show me the guy. Show me the guy who got a girl as hot as Vera who looked like Shelly.
There are plenty of schlubby. As a schlubby-looking person myself with a very attractive wife, I would say, it happens, more than
I have
you
a
think.
very attractive wife. She's super foxy, but not but Shelly was not gonna. That wasn't gonna happen that one weekend. Not gonna happen in that 24 or 48-hour period. Not happen.
So what was the atmosphere like filming this movie? Like, at this point, there had been a couple Fridays out. They'd obviously been pretty big hits. Like, what would you describe the atmosphere like on set? Were you guys, kind of getting like unwinding and having a chance to kind of like party a little bit because, you're in a fairly fun movie? Or do you take it like, hey, this could be a really big deal, and you take it fairly serious? Like, how would you describe the overall atmosphere?
That's an interesting question. We didn't, there wasn't this thing like this is a big movie. The first movie had been a hit, but, a minor hit. I mean, it wasn't a blockbuster hit. It was done well for a low budget movie. Mm-hmm. And the second movie, I think, did okay, but it wasn't like some thing. And so we're like, okay, we're making the third, and it's like, this is the third one. So this is, I don't think we were like going, oh, this is going to be the biggest. No, it turned out to be the biggest of all the sequels until the modern era. I think I've said before, it was very slow, the filming. There were a lot of breaks. It was a 2-hour setup between each shot. So, we do a shot. The actors, because the actors, where we had our the trailers, we were about good quarter mile from the set itself. So, because all that the house and the barn are just right there.
Mm-hmm.
We were a quarter mile away, and we would just hang there, and it was just kind of mellow. It was a small, we weren't a big, it wasn't like a huge cruise. I mean, it was a professional crew, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. So the crew would be at the set, and we, the actors, would be over in our trailers, just hanging, waiting to be called.
Did it ever feel like the performance took a back seat to maybe the effects, especially in filming in 3D?
Always.
Okay.
I mean, in that, yeah, there wasn't a lot of comment on our acting. Like, I think that Steve Miner was he's really focused on the 3D effects and what's going on, and we do a take and he'd cut, and then okay, go again, and we like I think the actors would sort of look at each other like, was that okay? Was that can I get something? I mean, it was my first movie. It was many of our first movies or early movies, and we would have liked a little more feedback on, mm-hmm. You all right? I mean, but so we didn't get that. Not that it was, it worked out all right, but
okay.
I don't remember Steve ever telling me anything like, too much in terms of acting choices. We didn't have any big discussions about, about my internal monologue on what's going on.
Right.
Maybe it was like do a little faster or a little more energy, but not much more than that.
So it was more like, just make sure you're hitting your marks and making sure that the setup is right so that the 3D looks good and like the special effects look good overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they realize, the acting is not what brings people to Friday the 13th.
Okay. But, in fairness, I do think that, like I said before, I think you guys all come off as likable, overall, which is really part of the fun of the movie. Kind of like when it's kind of sucks when Shelly comes.
I mean, look, there are people who hate Shelly. I've certainly met a number of people who, I'd say there's a good 20% of the fans who can't stand Shelly. Mm-hmm. All right, that's fine.
And when you hear that, do you feel like, great, like I did my job, or is it kind of a bummer?
It is. It's neither. I don't, because Shelly's a character I played. If they don't like him, all right. I mean, mm-hmm. What am I going to do?
Right.
I did it. It was 36 years ago. What are you going to do? Yeah.
So that actually is interesting. Eventually you made a switch in careers. You've gone from performing in front of the camera to, what looks like really acting as an advocate for a lot of performers that would have maybe been in a similar situation as yourself, like the little guy going up against, big studios or big corporations. What was it, just from looking at your law firm site here, what was it that made you make the switch in careers? Like, did you always have that interest in law if acting didn't work out? And what was it? Okay.
No. Acting just wasn't working out. I wasn't making any money. And my dad was a lawyer, and he said he'd pay for law school. And I was like, well, I got nothing else going on.
Okay.
So I went to law school, and I ended up, I really loved law school. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoy being a lawyer. And now I represent a number of people in the horror industry, which is even better. So I've been able to use my past experience as an actor and my experience in the horror movies as a entertainment and a copyright lawyer, which is great.
What was it that made you specifically go into, like, say, entertainment and copyright law? Was it because of, like, well, I've already have some connections in the industry, or did you feel like you kind of knew the ins and outs a little bit better? So
that was what I always wanted. I mean, I always wanted to be doing entertainment law and helping. That's the people I love. My clients, they're all creative writers and directors, and those are the people I love. I mean, I'm just not going to be a tax lawyer, or I didn't want to do divorces or criminal. I mean, no, this is what I wanted to do, and I love doing it.
So if you don't mind me asking, and I understand that you can't get into this, but you might have a unique perspective on the whole lawsuit with Friday the 13th between Cunningham and Victor Miller. And I just wonder where your opinion on it was, because it struck me as odd. But again, I know so little about the law that, like, Miller would get, the ability to keep the name Friday the 13th and some of the creations from it when he was like a writer for hire on the script. And it seems like now that property sits in limbo because of it.
Yeah, well, actually, there's a YouTube channel Slash and Cast, and I gave a very long, too long symposiums on the case that I would just encourage, if you really want to get into the nuts and bolts of the case, I go to Slash and Cast and look for me, and you can watch those, and they're about half hour each, and go into it. But basically, that's not what happened. Sorry.
If you need to take this,
Victor was not a work for hire. That was what the court ruled, and that's what we always thought. Victor was not a work for hire, and so he was able to get his rights back. It was Sean who sued Victor and said, you can't get your rights back, even though the Copyright Act specifically says he can. And it's Sean who tried to stop him, and Sean who's been the roadblock here. Now, although now the roadblock is really about how to divide the money, which is very complex because Victor only owns the rights to the first movie and only in the U.S. Well, he owns the rights to his script. He doesn't own the rights to the movie. He owns the rights to the script. So if they do another movie like the remake was, the remake was parts of 1, 2, 3, and 4, really. Right. Look at it. So you go, well, if we do a movie like that, or we just do movies with adult Jason killing people, and there's very little Mrs. Voorhees, how much of that should Victor get? Does he get, in terms of the rights money, does he get, 10%? Does he get 50%? That's a question that they're fighting about, and there's no answer for that. There's no guidebook. They're really in uncharted territory.
So it seems like eventually what it will boil down to is like just what the eventual dollar figure ends up being, where everyone is, if not happy, then they can at least live with the decision at that point.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and you said that was Hack and Slash?
Slash and Cast.
Slash and Cast. We'll definitely link to those in our show notes for anyone that wants to dive deep. I have just one or two more questions for you, Larry, and thank you so much for your time. And these are a little bit of oddball questions, so I apologize in advance, but I can't help but get struck. Like, you obviously, Shelly gives Jason the iconic mask, and that's what we kind of know him for and love Jason for. But how do you think the franchise would have been different if Larry was wearing one of those hats that have a propeller on it, and that's what Jason had taken from him?
I think that there would only have been 3 movies.
You don't think that would have gone?
And no one would be interviewing me now.
Oh, all right. And this is a question I used to end my old fanzines with in interviewing punk bands. But, I know that Shelly was not very lucky in love. But if you get into the mind of Jason Voorhees for a moment, and he was going to date any of the Muppets, which Muppet would Jason Voorhees date? And where would he take him on that first date? The
Muppets. So we're assuming that Jason is omnisexual, so he can date any of the Muppets.
I would definitely say the Muppets are pansexual creatures. That gender is a construct, and they just go about and do their business.
I'm sort of picturing a Gonzo Elmo threesome, like both extremes.
I have never pictured Elmo in any sort of, but I can see Gonzo. Okay.
Right, like Jason would like both ends, right? Like I need the energy of Gonzo, and then then he'd want to cuddle with Elmo.
You think Elmo might be a power bottom? I don't know.
Sorry. It's certainly possible. Well,
as soon as that left my mouth, I regretted saying that statement. So, Larry, last thing very quickly. When I look at your IMDb now, it seems that you've actually had a number of roles as of late in a number of smaller horror projects.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you're often credited as Shelly. Have you ever told the casting directors, look, I can play and remember different names? How is that? Or is it just that the character is that well known that it becomes a little bit of an in-joke?
Well, it becomes I was in Knights of Badassdom with Joe Lynch's movie, great movie if you haven't seen it.
Yep.
And I don't think the character had a name. It was just the boss, but Brian Posehn, the comedian, was playing the other role, and he's a huge Friday the 13th fan. So he just yelled. He called me Shelly, like at the thing, like as a joke, and that stuck. And then in Death House, that was definitely a Shelly thing. So it's more of a like my friends will put me in, and my clients will put me in their movie in little parts, which I love, and so it's just become a thing. I'm happy to play Shelly. I'm happy to do anything. I love being a lawyer, but if someone wants to give me a part in a movie, please.
You're all for it.
Excellent. If I could make a living acting, I would do that in a second.
Well, Larry, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for taking a few minutes to talking to our podcast. I really appreciate it. Is there any last thing you want to say before we sign out?
You can if you want to have updates on the lawsuit, follow me on Twitter at Zerner Law, and then I have at Larry Zerner, which is like for personal and acting stuff.
Excellent.
So two Twitters, but follow at Zerner Law for info on the lawsuit.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Larry. You have a fantastic afternoon.
You too. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Larry. Have a great day, man. Thank you. So once again, thanks so much for Larry Zerner for joining us for that quick little interview there. We hope you guys enjoyed that. We thought it was a lot of fun to do overall, and we hopefully have some other really cool interviews lined up for Friday the 13th that we're working on right now. What I can tell you is that coming on Monday, we will have our Part 4 coverage of the final chapter with special guest Vincente DeSanti, who is the writer, director, and star as Jason Voorhees of the really popular Friday the 13th spec film, Never Hike Alone. And because Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is just so damn good, we have another host as well, Nat Bremer, who is the author of the upcoming Complete Guide to the Puppet Master series. His writing is all over the web on horror. He's one of the more his stuff is incredible, and I think you're going to really love what these guys bring to the table for this episode. Following that, we have Michael Verratti joining us for Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, which I can tell you, man, we spent 2 hours talking about that movie, and it went in some directions I never in a million years would have thought of, and I think you're going to really dig it overall. So as we sign off here, man, can we just say happy birthday to Jason Voorhees, turning 74 years old today, the day that this is going to drop. We hope you guys wish Jason well. Hope he gets a big fucking machete that he's going to use on his birthday, and here's to many more Friday the 13th to come over the years. Thank you to all our listeners. We really appreciate all the comments, all the feedback we've gotten. Speaking for Jerry, who's not here as I'm doing this right now, all I can say is, like, we really, really love bringing you guys the show. We have a lot of very cool stuff lined up in the near future, too. So, happy Fridays, everybody.